It says NC. Okay, alrighty, can I get a motion to start the meeting?
Motion to start the meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor of starting the meeting? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Alrighty, welcome to Senate Meeting 22 on March 15th. Also, watching the last recording, it's kind of hard to pick up people's voices unless they're talking at about the volume that I'm talking, and I'm also closer to the mic. So if you're talking, try to raise your voice just so the videos can actually get it until we find a better setup. We're going to go ahead and do attendance real quick. Let me migrate over to here. Beautiful. And we have, as you guys know, Mehek is out right now, so she will not be here. If you guys have anything that needs to go to Mehek for this week, you can send it to me instead through email. So Mehek, absent. Brianna, here. Elena? Here. Karen?
Here.
No.
I just saw her.
She was just here.
She was here? Okay, we'll wait for her to come back. Nathan?
Here.
Angela? Grace?
Here.
Nikki?
Here.
Pritika? Oh, goodness. Suba?
Here.
Veda?
Here.
Talia?
Here.
Chinette?
He's late.
Okay. Jiwon?
Here.
Obi?
Here.
Peter? Sophie?
Here.
Kobe?
Here.
Harvey is out. Ireland?
Here.
Jenny?
Here.
Rachel? Also out. Raj?
Here.
Shalala?
Here.
Ryan?
Here.
Dalhart?
Here.
Jackson?
Here.
Jean?
Here.
John? Nope. Kaya?
Here.
Nasreen? Nas? No?
She said she's like a religious something.
Is she breaking? Oh, okay. She might be breaking. I'll text her.
She said she was going to tell you after.
Okay. Thank you. Alrighty, that concludes call to order and roll call. We're going to go ahead and do reports, executive board and SGA reports. As I said, executive president is out. Moving on to executive vice president. We had our exec meeting today with Calvin, Carolyn, and Allison. We went and saw the Hawkins food pantry that's in the lab. It is very good. I highly recommend you guys just like post the Insta graphic to your story because it's a really good resource for people. I'm going to try to use it because, you know, food insecurity is not a good thing to have. As always, if anybody needs a mental or physical health break thing, we do have the, it's in the Constitution, bylaws, rules, whatever. You can have 2 weeks off. After that point, we'll discuss what's going on. Elections are going on. Good luck for anyone who's rerunning. And if you are not rerunning or graduating, thank you for your service. Moving on from that, we are looking at things such as like the Leadership Award nominations, inauguration, event planning, that kind of thing. Today on the agenda, we have some event reports as well, so we're covering that. Just a reminder, if you are hosting any events at all, to submit event reports. Thank you for those of you that have been doing that. I think that concludes everything that we did, if memory serves. I feel like I'm forgetting one thing, but that's okay. Moving on to the treasurer, Karen.
Yesterday we were out with some monthly units, and I think the email for student orgs probably should be sending out soon, so you can apply for the CSL.
Alrighty, and secretary.
I've been having some medical issues, so I haven't been over spring break. I'll be working on the work log 2.0 thing, going by IA.
Nice. Alrighty, moving on to class council report. Seniors.
Nothing much to report this week.
Alrighty, juniors.
Yeah, we just met. We're still planning the formal.
Alrighty, sophomores.
We had our garden party, which, despite what you might have read on site, was a very huge success.
The pictures were very cute.
Yeah, very cute pictures. Check out my Instagram. Yeah, we also have our next event April 1st, and then we will need to plan another event with the money we have left.
The large funds. Freshmen.
So the first year class council was able to select a nominee for a senatorial vacancy on ours in under 7 business days. So shout out to everybody for making that was really impressive. For event, we've pulled together all our volunteers for a meeting, and we have plans to keep making progress. We are like taking this week kind of slow because it is the midterm paper, whatever, everything this week. But we will be meeting over break, and you know,
Okay.
it's going.
That sounds great. Committee reports, starting with academic affairs.
So
joint information being sent out about next fall. So look out for that. Anyone who was nominated or submitted interest for a focus group, look out in your emails after spring break. They're making the schedules for that. And if anyone has any professors that have made deadlines during spring break, whether you're in this room or know someone, please tell them to reach out to me so we can get that cleared up because that is not allowed. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on to civic engagement.
So, during our meeting, we talked about election as a holiday. We came up with counter arguments to administrators, counter arguments for why we should not have an election day off. We also talked about how to make sure everyone is involved, even if they can't vote because they're international, and just how to make sure that there's still a community.
Alrighty, and then finance.
Not much. We finally pushed out those SAT guidelines, and I believe Karen has talked to Calvin about setting up an email, and we're going to be opening up allocations for fall 22.
Alright, health, safety, and sustainability.
I was out this last week, but I think they mostly talked about the farmers market idea plan to give out cannabis bags and stuff. Yeah.
Alrighty, that sounds good. Moving on to IA.
We just passed a bylaw within the internally with IA. We also passed the Prisoners Bill, Kaya's bill. So that's coming next week, I'm assuming. We also are going with the additional rules bill amendment going along with both bylaw changes. So yeah.
Alrighty, and then student orgs.
Nothing much to report. We didn't meet this week to give everyone kind of some space during midterms. We're going to, ideally, if people from CSO can stay after GDM for literally 1 minute, because we're going to vote on some registrations. That would be lovely, so we can continue our work of being SciChat's #1 favorite organization.
Moving on to student services.
So we finally got the survey we've been talking about. So we finally got the survey that we've been talking about approved by Carolyn, and I think it's going to be sent out in the SHA email this week, hopefully. And also, we had a very kind of confusing meeting because there was some confusion about time, but China's also working on writing a funding bill for the SHA it's like suggestion box.
Yeah, we're thinking of making something that would be kind of visible on campus and something you could also scan. So it would kind of add, because people tend not to do stuff that when it's just online. People tend not to do stuff when it's just in person, but when it's both, works fine unless it's SciChat. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Just a point of information, there was a suggestion box bill 2 years ago, so maybe
It's the same one as reviving it.
Yeah.
They never got approved before.
COVID happened. So it's literally a 2-year anniversary of that bill, basically.
But it'll show up at a future meeting, right?
Yeah, you're all good. Alrighty, then that concludes our committee reports. We can move on to caucus reports. APETA caucus.
Yeah, so we did not meet this last week, but we're coming up with ideas for ideas for voter engagement for the upcoming Congress.
Alright, Black caucus.
We didn't meet this past week. Not much updates, just keeping up with the upcoming formals and end of the year events for the Black student organizations.
Disability caucus.
I guess I would meet.
Yes.
We did meet, I think it was last week, and this, did we? It could have been the week before.
We met last week on, I want to say it was Wednesday night?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and we just went over what we talked about in our SDS meeting, and also we went over the APA resolution that we passed a few years back to go over what we want to actually be working on this semester.
Alrighty, WGMC.
We just planned our meeting for OAU student conduct, which is tomorrow. And that's to plan the town hall, which is at the end of the month.
Alrighty, and then that concludes our caucus reports. Advisor report.
Hey y'all, I missed you.
Miss you too. Long time no see.
I have 3 updates. So first one, that's last meeting. I don't have a confirmation of who our storytellers are for the President Daniel event. Can you do a quick raise of hands? Do we have those people?
I don't.
I don't
But
think
I mean,
that,
for, like,
Is anybody-
but Mahek had told us that you were going to pick people out of the submissions.
Mahek did help pick people and then brought them to Caro. It was going.
Y'all
Whoop.
submitted something online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go look at that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
My heck is out of town, so. Yeah, so at the very least, I'll try to follow up before the week is out. I will not require you to do anything on over spring break, but when we come back, it'll be like a hit the ground running situation so that we are prepared. My second update is that I run the Hopkins Lead Pre-Orientation Program, and we're currently recruiting facilitators. It is a paid position. So for about a week's time, you can make a good chunk of change and help to sort of influence and support and help incoming first-year students through the pre-orientation program. If you're interested, the application's on the homepage of Hopkins Group, and I'm happy to chat with you about what the responsibilities of that role is. And then my last update, Brianna actually talked about, but the food pantry is live. It's open to all JHU affiliates, so anyone who works for or who's officially a part of the Hopkins community can access that. And it is a Maryland Food Bank site, so we get support from the state of Maryland to make that a thing. I'm excited to be back with y'all. I hope you have a good spring break next week and actually get to relax. So have some fun.
Okay. Alrighty, so that covers the advisor report. We have now concluded with reports. We're going to move on to new business. So the first item of new business is the, one second, let me pull it up here, the freshman senator confirmation. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the freshman class president if you want to talk about the process for how you selected this person, and then we'll do the brief description you sent me, then you'll take oath of office and we'll do all of that.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, we did it in approximately 7 business days. So, early on in the first or second, we did a class email asking for applicants. This was accompanied by several social media posts, as well as like word of mouth communication. At around like the 5th, maybe, I think we closed our applications around the 5th or 6th business day, something like that. And then over the weekend, so not during the business days, we did interviews. I should clarify. So when we got our applicants, we used a voting system within the council members to select which applicants would be interviewed. And then following that, we did our interviews, and then we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an anonymous selection.
Yes.
From the group of responses.
The first one, yes. Or it was the identified.
Okay. Alrighty, well, would you like to stand up and introduce yourself vaguely, super short, like name, year, and then why you want to run for SGA?
Yeah, sure. Hello, my name is Iris. I'm a freshman. And why I wanted to run for SGA is because I just think it's super important in college that students have a way to like communicate their wants and interests of their administration. And when I heard there's an opportunity to be a part of it, I was really excited. And yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the year as well.
Alright, that sounds great. Beautiful, okay. Well, at this point, I believe that SGA is going to vote to confirm you based on the work that the freshman class council has done. Once you're confirmed, we'll go ahead and have you read the oath of office, which I need to get you sorted and like being added to the teams and the agenda and everything, but I'll pull it up on the screen right here. So, point of information, Carolyn?
Yes.
It's just motion to vote, or motion to approve, and then ayes, nays, and abstain, right?
Point of order, yeah. Motion to confirm, and then.
Thank you. Okay. Just double checking. Okay. Got it. All right. Could I get a motion? Jackson.
Motion to confirm Iris.
All right. All in favor? Or seconded, sorry. All in favor of confirming Iris to the freshman class senate position?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congrats. You've been confirmed. I'm going to have you stand up. And now we're going to go ahead and read You're gonna repeat after me, and we're just gonna go ahead and do the one that says, we don't have a freshman one, so you're just gonna do the top one. Sorry, freshmen. And where it says name here, or any of that information, you insert your own name. So go ahead, raise your right hand. I
Iris Gupta,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Senator of the Class of,
the office of Senator of the Class of 2025,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the JHU Student Government Association.
the Constitution of the JHU Student Government Association.
Congratulations! Yay! And just stay after GBM for like a hot second so I can meet with you and add you to everything, and read if you want to stay after as well. I'll just do you both at the same time. Alrighty, that sounds good. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is the speaker event report presented by Freshman Class Council President. So you have 5 minutes to go ahead and give a description of what this is, and you can finish whenever you want. Go ahead.
Just wait for a minute. Yeah, so this was the Dr. Young speaker event held approximately, or just under 2 weeks ago, I think. Shout out to Naz, who is not here, who primarily coordinated this. It was a lot, but it's great. It was a great event. Just description, Dr. Young in chemistry came to share his experiences and advice regarding being a first-generation college student. Our use of funds, not a lot, mostly just some for the raffle and then something for the speaker. And we have good attendance and engaged attendees. As far as future planning goes, we probably should have advertised earlier. I think we started a day before the event. But regardless, amazing turnout still. And we probably should have recorded it. A lot of people asked if there was a recording. Unfortunately, we didn't. But just something to keep in mind, I guess, for future events.
Alrighty.
Go
ahead.
If you scroll down to the second page, you can see. I think that's just a advertisement that we had for the event. Yep.
Alrighty, all good. So glad that was successful. Let me go ahead, go back to the Senate meeting. If anybody wants to motion for a discussion on that, they can. Otherwise, you can go ahead and move on to the next meeting. I'll give you guys a couple seconds. And by meeting, I meant agenda item. My words don't work. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is the garden party event report presented by the sophomore class president. So you can go ahead and start whenever you want. You have about 5 minutes to go ahead and give an overview of this.
Yeah, so last Friday we had our garden party, Promicon, which was a fun name we thought of. We went to Gertrude's. Theme was intended for us, and we were there last Friday. And budget-wise, used a lot of money. $915.78 for decorations, $15K for Gertrude's, all of that. $892 for BMA rental and security fees. So we had a lot of people come. I think we had 370-ish people registered and 350 people come to the event. Overall, it was successful. A lot of people came and they liked most of them liked what we had, so that's nice. Future planning, we do not have a lot of money left in our budget, about $37.59 for a third event. We only have our second event planned, but that is going to be a bit of a trouble.
You guys give us back.
He's gaslighting.
Continue.
Oh, yeah. I just lost my...
You have $37 left in your budget.
Yeah, so just kind of changes is that, I think we planned it out as not as early as we would have liked. We were cutting things pretty close to the last minute with admin approval and getting the budget request approved, so doing that next year. Also, it was very cold that night, so everybody hung out inside, even though we spent a lot of time setting up decorations outside. That's another thing. We have a lot of leftover decorations, so if any other class councils need it. Don't spend more money.
Both ears sitting around you, their ears literally just perked up.
Yeah, In return, you guys can give us money for the
Oh,
event.
never mind.
So you should sell it.
Continue. Kobe, go ahead and continue.
And that was it. Sidetrack didn't like it.
Oh my gosh.
But other than that, I feel it was a piece.
Okay, good. Glad that went well. If anybody would like to add on anything else or motion to have a discussion, we can do that. Otherwise, go ahead.
Motion to hold a 5-minute moderated caucus
With
with 1 minute speaking times. Part of it is we're going to be holding this next year. I count.
yeah,
Like,
that's a good idea. I recommend
I
that.
want to learn from.
Can I get a second for the 5-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking times? All in favor of moving into a 5-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking times? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we're now in a 5-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking time. Jackson is the first one on the speakers list. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be added.
I'd just like to invite any sophomores to talk about stuff that they learned, like what did work, what didn't work, and just kind of like what you would say in the future for like us freshmen and future, I guess, sophomore classes just in general. Because if this is going to be like a tradition, do you think it should stay as a tradition, or do you think?
I mean, it's
We
like
should
literally a
change it.
tradition.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do it.
Like we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to do the freshman formal, but
I mean, so were we. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. Do you yield your time to somebody specific on the software class council or just anyone?
I'm kind of waiting for one of them to add themselves to the
Okay.
speaker list.
Oh, should we or something?
I don't even say my
Sure.
words.
Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, like, I think like the first thing is like delegating like the tasks, because there's like so many things that we have to do, and then like we were like talking about like who's gonna get the decoration, like who's gonna like buy all the stuff, and like who's gonna like submit all the finance, and like, who's gonna talk to like the venue and stuff like that, and then we like have like a few specific people that we delegated that task to, and then like they would be our point of contact whenever we like needed like any like advice on like what we should be doing in regards to those things. Like also like make sure you like submit your finance stuff earlier on, because like we kind of struggle a lot with that, and also communication is so important. There's like a lot of times that like I don't know, there's like a lot of miscommunication. Or like we just got really
delays.
Yeah, we just got really confused.
Conversations you should have earlier.
Yeah, a lot of conversations. You should have conversations earlier on.
Anybody else?
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I would say definitely like ask for volunteers from your class,
Yeah.
like get all the help you can get, because it's really a lot. And also we did wish we had more leeway with like the time and location and stuff, so if you're able to like focus on that, put a lot of time into where you're putting it and how much it will cost and stuff. Don't get into that like a swing. But yeah.
Anybody else want to speak? Kobe?
I think we're all supposed to-
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, working with vendors will be difficult or off the table, because the thing with procurement is that they pay after vendors provide their services, up to 15 business days, I believe is the number. But many vendors do want to be paid before, and I've had some vendors report negative experiences because of that. So if you do want to work with vendors, make it very clear that they will be paid after, and it's not uncommon for vendors to say then, I'm sorry, I can't provide services because we require payment before. So working with vendors is a bit of a challenge. So like for ordering flowers, any caterer companies outside, we did it through Gertrude, so we didn't have to worry about that, but that is an issue.
I think also an important lesson we learned was the don't count your chickens before they hatch. Because we had like our event planned out and we're like, oh, we'll just get monthly grants to cover the gap. We did not get a monthly grant, and then we just had to very much change our event like, honestly, it was like 6 days before that, so.
Yeah, it was a lot like the rug was pulled under us, like at the last moment, so that wasn't fun.
Yeah. Also, like, just make sure to like register your stuff earlier on.
I registered it at
But like understand like what you have to do to like make sure that your event is like actually registered, because like I guess we weren't that aware that we had to like talk to someone in lead about, like, because it was like such a big event, and like the registration was just like really delayed, and like we sent out the invitation with like the registration date, but like no one could register that day because like the event wasn't actually approved.
Yeah. A lot of people got it.
Yeah.
I would submit it now if you can.
Yeah, exactly.
But we also had trouble because we couldn't submit it earlier because we also didn't have it planned earlier. So it's a big jump.
It was a lot of.
You guys did good for everything that you had to deal with. Shout out. I was in that chat. I saw the things that you were dealing with. You guys did great. All right. The moderated caucus is expiring in 5 seconds.
Motion to extend moderating caucus by 1 minute. Wait, 1 minute.
Great. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Moderated caucus is extended. Do you want to yield your time, Raj?
Yes, I must.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say like probably look into getting the DJ monitor. We kind of did it ourselves, but it was a lot more work than I thought it'd be, especially since a lot of people when I add to the queue and stuff like that. Like you don't want to be doing that work while you're trying to party, so.
Do you recommend a DJ?
Probably not
No,
a
we
DJ,
would
just someone to
recommend-
like put stuff on the
We
queue.
tried to get like a professional DJ, but they were like really expensive. Like even a student, like we asked.
We were
Get a
talking
Peabody
about getting like a.
Peabody Kids.
We also talked to Peabody Kids, and they were also really expensive.
Really?
Wait, how?
Guys, make sure we're yielding time if we're in the moderated caucus. So if you see someone asking a question, good.
Like okay, like firstly, like we're thinking about a professional DJ, but like they were like $500 an hour or something like that. But then we asked like a student, and they were like
30 seconds.
$150 an hour, which was still out of our budget because originally our event was planned for like 6 hours. We also wanted a string quartet for like Peabody, and it was like also basically like 100. They were like $150 per person of the quartet. So
Good.
really expensive.
10 seconds left. If you have any questions, you can also ask it later after GBM as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you to all this.
Good. Alrighty. So that concludes, the moderated caucus is now expired. We're going to move on to the Cso presentation by the chair and co-chair of the student orgs group. If you guys want to come up here, feel free. I would recommend that at least one of you do, just so we have something to look at besides the presentation. You can bring an extra chair if you want. And you can go ahead. If you guys want to open the presentation on your computers, feel free. You don't have to. If somebody wants to sit here and click through, you can use this chair, Grace. And that way you can click through. We just can't block the whole screen by presenting. So, alrighty. So you guys have 5 to 10 minutes to go ahead and present. Take it away.
Lovely. So this was originally slated to be last week to kind of help to contextualize some of the SAC guidelines that we were talking about, especially as Grace and I are leaving. We want to make sure that, we're making sure things transition out well. Needless to say, we pulled it because it was there was a lot going on last week. And we didn't want to throw in anything that was going to be extraneous just so we could focus in on the job. But wanted to kind of help to provide this context on kind of how CSO is thinking about how we think about organizations and changing how we do things like finance and recognition moving forward. And because student organizations are so critical to our campus culture, this is a process that we don't want to do all of a sudden, right? So we actually charted it out and we were like, okay, to implement the things that we would like to see implemented, it would take about 3 years. So we timed it out and we put a nice little presentation together because we're not going to be here, but someone else please do all this.
We're having this presentation so that you can all hold each other accountable so that this actually gets done. So we're excited. But yeah, riding off of that, this is also in reference to Delhart's bill that we passed 2 weeks ago, differentiating student organizations into sort of the unfunded and funded categories. They're specifically titled like not eligible for semesterly allocations and eligible for semesterly allocations. We don't really want to, we want to emphasize that like unfunded and unfunded are not like judgments about your organization. They're both equally as valuable, but more so we're trying to make sure that you get the resources that you need to have your organization function, and then we can help as many organizations as possible that want to be on this campus. And so that's pretty much the whole purpose of this.
So, we'll kind of fly through this because a lot of this we have actually already gone through for the fall. So if you want to click to the second slide, yeah. So it's probably going to be easier to read on your respective laptops.
Here, yep.
But each semester we kind of identified what are the key things that need to happen to get us to the place that I think CSO and finance both agrees is the place we would like to be with student organizations. We've really already kind of done the stuff in the now category. So the semesterly grants, that is something that will be coming with our budget request, but the other two pieces, establishing the non-semesterly funded tier, that was something that was in Dahlhardt's bill. And then the SAC guidelines, obviously, I guess also play into the semesterly grants portion. And with our additional funding, we would like to see, ideally, some kind of incentive program that uses our existing monthly grant funds once we have a better idea of how many are going to be left over. Moving forward, though, we are then gone, but important things still need to happen because there are now guidelines in effect that will take effect next year. So for instance, there will be a fundraising requirement for student organizations. That needs to be very, very clearly communicated to organizations so that they do not submit their spring budget requests and get denied because they didn't do fundraising in the fall and be like, well, we didn't know this was a thing. Make them know it's a thing, please. And further, one of the other things that CSO really wants us to get into the place of is being able to utilize Hopkins groups more as a system to help us in assessing organizations and how we can best support them. So what that requires is for organizations to be consistently and regularly and dependably using Hopkins groups. A lot of that naturally happens because you have to put so much in Hopkins groups, right? Like to do an event, if it's on an on-campus space, it's got to be in Hopkins groups. That being said, we know that there are places where things are slipping through the cracks, and we really want to also make sure that as we're continuing to emphasize this fundraising point, we're really asking people to write down who's registered at your event, who checks into your event, on your event, so we can see, like, what is your engagement like at your events. Make sure all your events, on campus and off, are in Hopkins groups, because we're going to look at what events you actually put on, and whether you're using our money in a responsible way. Because we want to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. And the reason we bring that up, I don't know if we actually...
We can go into them.
If we want to go, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else there. Yes, we can go down to the spring then. The reason we bring that up, I guess, again, is because we want to really make sure. I wrote this presentation like 2 weeks ago. Y'all, like this is.
Basically, what we wanted to make sure is that when people put things into Hopkins groups, we can actually create metrics around that that are unbiased, that are sort of like generalized enough that they can apply to any kind of student organization on campus. And based off of those, we'll be able to fully assess whether or not they need semesterly allocations and if they have garnered enough good faith within us, the SGA, that they deserve these semesterly allocations. What we really want to shift the mindset from is that these semesterly allocations are going to be your secondary source of income. Most of your funding is going to come from event funding grants, so that you tell us exactly what you want to do, how much money it's going to take, where you want to do it, and when you want to do it. We give you the money exactly for whatever thing that you need. And then these semesterly allocations are going to be more so like good faith money in case you put on an event that was a little over budget and you didn't calculate that into your original budget request for that event. This is something that you can tap into so that your event can still move smoothly and as efficiently without having to come to us and be like panicked and be like, oh no, I need so much more to cover this. What we really want to emphasize both through fall and spring is that spring we're going to start kicking some of these metrics and some of these requirements into gear. So finance will be assessing organizations to see whether or not they've met the fundraising requirement in terms of so if they've had just one fundraising event, we're not asking for any kind of amount that you're supposed to be fundraising. You just have to demonstrate that you know how to fundraise and that you understand that the USGA is not your only source of income. Based off of if they have that and a bunch of other things that I know finance already assesses, they will determine how much your semesterly allocation will be. And then beyond that, we also just want to continue to adjust the budget request and then adjust some of the SAC guidelines to make sure that we know we like shift the sort of mindset between semesterly and event funding such that event funding is a more primary source. Also during the spring, we want to make sure that metrics are finalized for CSO consideration. We want to make sure that that's agreed upon by Senate because it's something that CSO will be enforcing, but I do not believe CSO should be the only people who have say in how they're evaluating these groups. So a lot of these metrics will have to do with the things that we've been talking about. So putting things into Hopkins groups, demonstrating that you have a high attendance rate, that most of your events are open to the public and they have a demonstrated campus-wide impact. And then a bunch of other like organization management things, like if you have transition documents, if you have a updated constitution, if you're moving your officers in and out when you have elections and things like that. So very basic things that should apply to every single organization on campus so that we know that all of our organizations are working as smoothly and efficiently and will not be taking up resources that other organizations could be using.
Yeah, and so I think, if the previous year's theme was really communication and making sure organizations hear about changes, the next year is really focused on actualizing them. So the key thing, we've already implemented a fundraising requirement in the spring, and that's something that we already actually have to do because it's in the SAC guidelines. But further, with the CSO's metric work and with Dahlhardt's bill that we passed last week, we really think that a year should be spent making sure organizations understand that they are going to be assessed in many ways through what we can see in Hopkins groups. So they have plenty of time to hear that, so long as we do communicate effectively with them. And then that fall 2023 to 2024 year is really going to be based on the implementation of that. So that would be the first year that we would be looking at your Hopkins groups activity and saying, are you eligible for a semesterly grant or not, right? Do we think that your activity merits that good faith credit, or should you just be applying for funding on an as-needed basis, which we are happy to provide. Event funding will be hopefully the majority of our funding, so we won't be, again, it's just shifting the mindset away from these semesterly allocations. But definitely that's a transition, so that's why it's something that takes 3 years, is because we want to make sure that we do this right. So yeah, I think the two things listed here are just, literally just some of our considerations, and that fall 2023, for those on CSO, you know this, but for everyone else, that's really when we're doing the bulk of our re-registrations, and so this would be something that takes place during the re-registration process. So in addition to looking at all the things we look at, one of the things we would look at is kind of what do you have in Hopkins groups, and how can we be sure that you are providing an active benefit to the campus community if we are giving you money.
And on the CSO end, this is meant to streamline our processes as well as finances. This is going to be as an on-application process. So if you do not apply for a semesterly allocation, we are not considering you for a semesterly allocation. We're not proactively going like this person deserves it. No, you're going to apply for it, and then we will assess how much you want. And that way we have, because we're looking at what, 150 to 180, or we're supposed to be looking at that many per semester for our re-registrations, and that frankly is far too much even for a 10-person committee. So this is meant to both streamline our process and finance the process and make sure that people who are actively seeking that money get the money that they need, and people who are a little more relaxed about it can go about their merry way without having to deal with it.
And I think, the thing to emphasize is that this will really enable us to fund any group when they have an event that we think is going to provide benefit to the campus community, regardless of what their annual allocation is, right? If you have a good idea for something that's going to impact the campus, we want to fund it. What we don't want to have happen is you propose an event in March, things happen, it doesn't end up happening in the fall semester, and so we gave you all this money for an event that never actually took place, and so that money was just sitting around when we could have had it doing some other good with another group, right? So groups will still have access to SGA funding. In fact, most groups will have access to significantly more funding than they get in their annual allocation. It's just that it's going to be looking at a little bit different what that process is, and we hope it's going to be a much nicer process in that it's something that you're going to be submitting maybe a few months before instead of 10 months before your actual event. Oh, and then the only other thing I think to reference here is I have a little kind of smug SAC is no more thing in spring 2024. But one of the things we have been thinking a decent bit about is right now the body that will be deciding most of these funding decisions is an unelected body that uses SJS money. We confirm that, to be very clear. But I would, I guess, ask yourselves if you know who the SAC people are. If you're not on finance, because those are the people that are primarily making these decisions, and we think a lot of these decisions should be things that are made by the elected representatives. So that would be, we would still need students to provide some administrative support, making sure that like we actually have all the information we need to make decisions. But it's another thing to kind of just keep in the back of your head. And then again, we need to make sure that our guidelines and our budget requests reflect that we would be prioritizing events, event-specific grants over things like semesterly allocations.
And I think at this point, since we've sort of transitioned ourselves into this model and we've done it slowly enough that people will actually be on board with it, we can start thinking a little bit more about what we want to prioritize on this campus through the incentive grants. So do we want to prioritize things that have at least 4 organizations coordinating with each other, things that are over 250 people, things that are on public spaces, things like that. Specifically tailoring what we want to see on campus in a very broad-based way, but still being like, we want this specific thing, because I think one of the main issues that we have identified is that a lot of organizations want to do a lot of things, and a lot of organizations are very similar in the things that they want to do. So for them all to do a bigger and better thing, they might as well just all talk to each other about it.
For sure. So I think that's about all we have. Definitely available if y'all have any questions or any discussion points that you want to bring up. But again, I think the thing that we want to emphasize is just that this is a process that kind of already has been set in motion with the 2 things that we've passed. And we want to make sure that we do this right, which means that there's going to have to be pretty consistent, proactive communication with the student body. So that is going to be on you all next year. So please do that. Thank you. Yeah.
My thoughts. Do you guys have like selected points people for the to follow through with this?
Post-elections.
Post-elections.
Yeah, you guys can go back to your seats, and then we can get a motion for something.
Motion for a 10-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking times.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Also remember, everyone's supposed to vote for all of the things. All right, we're now on a 10-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking times. Jackson is the first speaker.
Yeah, I guess the first point of discussion would be if we just want to discuss, like right now, like possible like metrics, like specific metrics that we want to talk about, kind of like what Nathan was saying. I guess if anybody else has any ideas, with that being said, what they want to do, yield my time to $1.
So we spoke on several occasions at different CSO meetings about what metrics we wanted to use. I think we used things such as registered members at events, opposed to just members of the student body that aren't registered under an organization at an event, then registration versus actual attendance. Those are some of the only metrics you can get out of Hopkins Group's registration, but those can still prove valuable in giving allocations to organizations.
Anybody else? Nobody has any questions about the next 3 years of CSO? Veda?
I don't know whether this idea has been like floated already, but I'd be in favor of maybe like restructuring SAC. You talked about it being like having students from like the student body handle like administrative tasks, so maybe creating something like the IFC, but for like inter-organizational stuff, just to like handle that and promote collaboration. I think that would be an interesting idea, but I just want to put it out there.
I'm putting myself on the speakers list. I am a little bit worried about, like, with having more students being involved in CSO stuff or whatever SAC stuff, bias with personal organizations, because I don't want it to get skewed unfairly if there was something like the IFC or whatever, something like that, and let's say like 3 of the people were on the fire spinning club, for example, and started like skewing it a bit their way, because some of it is implicit bias that you can't really get rid of, and then accounting for the conflicts of interest are difficult. So I would encourage everybody, if you're on CSO, finance, anything, just make sure that if you have a conflict of interest, you're either stepping away or have somebody like checking on you to make sure that you're not letting your own personal feelings get too involved. Because like I love all my clubs, I love all the clubs, but I wouldn't want to be unfair to another student organization because I'm not in it or something like that. So I would encourage everyone to think of that. And then Obi?
The idea of like using the same kind of thing IFC kind of uses, I think is a great idea. Like if we have staff be composed of like a few members from Homewood Arts, a few from, culture or things like that. Like there's certain things that like, I think right now like Georgie is the only person on staff that's ever kind of helpful because everyone does work in their own way. I mean helpful as far as providing context for things, right?
Yeah.
Because she's in some sort of like a cappella group, so a lot of their requests that they put in are like, even like one time the ballet club asked for like playbills and we're like, this sounds dumb, what is this? But it was like a very important part of their thing. So I think if we have, like if we're pulling people from these actual orgs rather than just a lot of members from nowhere,
The contextual.
Would be nice, yeah.
Good. All right, we have Dalhart.
I also think that's a really good idea because I think it would be a way that like we already have these like overarching kind of groups such as like the IAC, like the IFC, and I know there's like ones with cultural organizations as well that like bring them together in some kind of space. I think would be useful because I know there's probably a lot more that like we can't name that exist as like overarching groups or maybe that need to exist for different orgs on campus.
Jackson.
Just as like a general question, like what is the timeline, like with that whole timeline, like where, maybe I missed it, but like where are we like looking at getting like equal members on finance and student orgs? And like what would be the ideal for like when that would be implemented?
I have information, there's a bill about that coming up probably next week.
Correct. Next GBM, that bill will be presented to
So in
GBMs. Yeah, after spring break.
sorry.
After spring break.
Thank you.
But I believe that IA has passed it, so you guys are welcome to look at it before I send out the agenda. It's in the drive, as all things always are. All right. Do we have any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, could I get a motion to end the moderated caucus?
Motion to end the moderated caucus.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that concludes the moderated caucus and the CSO presentation for their 3-year plan. Thank you again to Grace and Nathan. That was great. I love planning ahead. Kobe?
Motion to move into a closed session.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's try it again. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No? Okay, we're gonna stop the live stream. Newsetta, I'm gonna ask you to step out of the room. If you wanna wait out there, I'll bring you back in once the closed session is done. Thank you. I'm gonna ask everybody to put their phones off in their bags or face down on the table. Open the live stream again, and then. Advancing legislation and announcements. We'll start with advancing legislation. It looks like we're gonna have 2 bills from IA for the GBM after spring break. One presented by Kaya, one presented by I forgot who, but we passed it, so yay. Does anybody else have any bills that will be happening after spring break? Jackson.
Yes.
Are we? Oh yeah. China, you want to take this?
Yeah. So we are passing the suggestion box. Funding the.
Great.
We're currently trying to do that. Get that through finance.
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, we'll figure that out later, but possibly the suggestion bill thing after spring break. Anybody else? No? Okay, moving on to announcements. I will start. Happy Blue Jay Tuesday. Yeah, wow, that got 0 responses. Oh, heck yeah! This is a really stressful week. It is many people's hell week, the week before spring break. Do your best on your exams. Your grades don't define your life, no matter how much your parents might make you feel that way, or other sources. Take whatever time you need for yourself. Enjoy spring break. I will see you guys all next week. Again, if anybody needs anything, always feel free to reach out to me. You have my phone number, you have my email, everything like that. I forgot my last announcement, so Kobe. Were you raising your hand or just petting your face? Suba.
Just to reiterate from the beginning of the meeting, if anyone has any issues with professors over spring break, please let me or Veda know. I've already gotten like a couple of emails and stuff about things that are going on, so.
Do you want to make a Google Doc where people can we can drop the link and people can fill it out with like the class, professor, and what the work is? Or no?
Really, I don't get that many responses. You can just send me an email.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have any announcements? No? Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to best dress today. Wonderful. Oh, wow. That was so ready. Ireland. Suba, stand up. Suba, do you accept your nomination?
Thank you.
Alrighty. Trinette. Reed, stand up. Reed, do you accept your nomination?
I'll accept it this week.
Alrighty. This week. Any other nominations? Karen, stand up. Stand up. Do you accept your nomination? Okay. Jackson.
I'll nominate Iris.
Iris, stand up. Oh, I don't know if you know what we're doing. Yay! We do a best dressed business casual type thing at every meeting. Whoever's best dressed wins, and then you get a little prize thing. Do you accept your nomination?
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other nominations? No? No? Okay. Head down. Eyes closed. Just to reiterate, the nominees are Suba, Reed, Iris. Elena, did I miss anyone? All right, if you only get 1 vote, please raise your hand only once. If you would like to vote for Suba, raise your hand. Oh, I don't know how to count. Okay, if you would like to vote for Reed, raise your hand. Hands down. If you would like to vote for Iris, raise your hand. Hands down, heads up, eyes open. Congrats, Suba! Yay! Best dressed. Okay, well, we all know what comes now, public input period. Hello, public, you have any input for us?
Say something really cool.
No? No? Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Where's my gavel? Bye.
Does everybody want to pass me their?
Placards can go right here in front of me.
The 2 years ago thing, maybe?
I have my picture taken. Oh, there it is. I'm on there. J-Heck made it.
CSO will not be meeting. Okay, we're not meeting either.
Iris, come really quick. We need to add you to Teams, which is a chat that we do most things in. Mehek's the one who does that. Mehek